listening to the Fifth Down Fantasy Football Podcast with Johnny Slopes.
Top 3 to 5 pick next year.
And Camilla.
For the value you could have gotten at Ryan at.
I almost had 5,000 yards, but no, you don't want me. What you're saying is Wayne Gallman is the definitely functions of running backs?
I guess you could say that. I guess you can put me down as a for saying that.
We now bring you to the Fifth Down.
What is up, Fifth Downers? You're listening to the Fifth Down Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Johnny Slopes, and with me, as always, is my partner in crime, K-Mill.
Hey.
Yes, we're here in week 3, and I know some of you may be 0-2, but now is not the time to panic. The season is still early, but I know you're probably looking to make a few moves. Maybe you're trying to look for some trades, or you're picking up some key players on the waiver wire. I know we were hitting on a few of them week 1 and week 2, so if you're listening to us, hopefully you're in okay shape. K-Mill, do you have any advice for anyone out there who's 0-2?
Oh man, well, I like how you put me on the spot because in our league, you know, I am 0-2. So unfortunately, there is no right solution. You're going to have your bad moves and your good moves, but you have to make a change, man. If you're 0-2 right now, being 0-3 in most leagues is pretty much a death sentence. So you know the time is now. You got to make some moves. It absolutely is time to blow up your roster. If you're like sitting here and being like, maybe I can trust this guy, you know, if I just give him a couple more weeks, you can't wait on players at this point. You have to make some moves. So talk to every single owner in your league. Try to make some deals. It's never a guarantee it's going to happen, but you have to make moves, and you have to add these players off the waiver wire that we're telling you to on the Fifth Down.
And this is what a David Johnson owner sounds like.
Yeah, you got to panic, man. It sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of my sleeper bot leagues. I am 0-2. Week 1, I lost by a half a point. Week 2, I lost by 1.1. And I mean, in that case, I still feel pretty good about my team. I feel strong about my team. I just happen to run into the wrong teams, you know. That's another thing that's out there is, you know, just because you had to take the L that week doesn't mean you had a bad week.
Right, exactly, and that's how I feel in our league. Like, you know, I'm like the 5th highest, you know, team as far as like actual points go. But I had 2 run-ins with good teams, you know, both weeks. So or teams that just blew up. So sometimes it's just about your.
It's a strength of schedule, you know.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same token, you know, if you're 0-2 in most leagues, and you know you got 4 playoff teams, you really have to sit here and be like, you know, man, fuck it, you know, let's make some moves.
Definitely not time to sit back and relax, you know.
Exactly.
You got to be a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, exactly.
I know we all thought we were going to get a snooze fest last night, and you know it ended up being a surprise. It was a shootout. What was some of your takeaways from that game? Did you like what you seen? Were you entertained?
Yeah, I know. You know what? I like how, you know, a couple weeks ago you were like, you know, giving me shit for my Jared Goff line. You know, I don't know what he has, but maybe he has it. But you know what? I'm telling you, man, maybe he has it, all right? He's got the it factor because he was making some pretty awesome throws last night, and I loved how he was able to not just key in on, like, one target or whatever. He was spreading the ball around really nicely. I like that. And, man, Todd Gurley, you know, he really showed us why, you know, a couple of years ago he was a first-round pick because, man, it just came back to him. Now that teams have to respect that passing game, that's going to open up lanes for Todd Gurley, and I have to admit I might be changing my opinion on him and turning a new leaf. He was pretty impressive last night.
Well, I mean, you have every right to be excited about the Los Angeles Rams offense right now. I still think their quality of play has been against lesser teams.
Sure.
I like, especially like, you know, the 49ers. They brought up more questions than they solved pretty much for me. Like, is Shanahan's offense really that good, or is the Rams' defense just that bad? And if the Rams can put up that many points on that same 49ers defense on the road that the Seahawks just played a week ago. Is the Rams offense really that much better than Seattle's offense? Like, football is not like translative like that, though. It is in the same. That's why there's like a lot more questions than there was answers solved. You know.
Yeah, definitely, and that honestly, like, I think I love how you brought that up. You know, you brought it full circle, and it highlights how like bad Seattle's offense looked against a horrible team like, you know, the 49ers. So we'll probably go into that later because I'm stressed about it too. If you own Seattle Seahawks players, I would be stressed.
I mean, Todd Gurley, I think I had him ranked inside the top 5 this week. I knew it was going to be a Todd Gurley versus Carlos Hyde battle. I was not expecting all the fireworks, though. And sit-downers, do not go and look at the highlight plays of Sammy Watkins, because it's just going to make you fall more in love with him, and it's going to be harder to try to trade him away. But what are you doing right now if you're a Sammy Watkins owner? Are you trying to sell him right now? Are you holding on to him to see what you got? Or like, what are you doing with him?
To me personally, I don't think the value is going to get much higher, honestly. Like, okay, so this is an offense where you have Cooper Kupp, who I think is really going to be a surprise, you know, guy this year. I think that he's going to do a lot of good things this year. And then you have Robert Woods, who I'm not too excited about. But Sammy Watkins, I would be trying to sell him because he's got an extensive injury history, and you kind of just want to, like, you know, distance yourself from that, I think. If you can get a good piece for him, I'd do it. If people are offering you bench shit, you know, I wouldn't do it. But if you're getting a tangible piece for maybe like a package deal, I think that could be a good move.
I know, like, right now it seems like it's the perfect time to sell Sammy Watkins, but he hasn't really succeeded so far against any defenses that I actually respect. I know next week is he plays Dallas, which isn't really not another good secondary, but if you could wait till next week, if you can explode against them, you might be able to, I think, really sell him, you know what I mean? And I think it's kind of hard to sell him right now because he also suffered a concussion in that game. So he has to still clear the protocol as well.
That's a good point. You know, that's always hairy when you're trying to sell an injured player to somebody. So, but I'm just saying, if you can get a good package for him right now, I'd probably do it. But yeah.
Oh, you're gonna find some people. You're gonna find some people that'll do it. I'm saying if he has another big game next week against Dallas, if he can clear protocol, play against Dallas, have another big game, because I don't really think they have any good corners. If he can have another big game, I think you could be able to really sell him.
That's a
it's
good
a big
point.
gamble.
I mean, he could. Yeah, you're basically playing double or nothing, you know, at this point. So, I mean, yeah, it depends on what kind of offers you're getting. If you're trying to package him into a deal and you get a good one, then sure. But if nobody's giving you anything, you know, worthwhile or, you know, any players that you like, I just sit on him, wait, and then play double or nothing, see if he has a good game against Dallas, and then see where that goes.
I think there's really just one big piece of news that I do want to talk about, and then we can jump into things. Ezekiel Elliott has a court date coming up on the 2nd of October, and this is going to determine whether the suspension stands. Looks like he'll get 2 games in before that court date, and then it's up in the judge's hands. What are you doing? If you're a Zeke owner right now, are you in freak out mode?
I wouldn't say I'm in freak out mode, but I would try to go to the not informed owner of your league and be like, hey, Zeke, what's up, man? And then just like try to see what you can physically get for Zeke. Because I've seen some trades, you know, in some of my leagues where it's like, you know, Zeke for Elliott, or I'm sorry, not Zeke for
yeah, Zeke for Elliott, yeah.
Yeah, no. Like Zeke for like Mike Evans or, you know, like a Jordy Nelson or something like that. And if you can get something, I wouldn't say so much for a Jordy Nelson, but if you're getting like a Mike Evans in the deal, I'd definitely do it. But if you're
I mean, if I was getting Mike Evans, I probably would take it. Then you don't have to deal with the headache. It just really depends on, because you got to think if you drafted Zeke, you probably drafted a bunch of running backs around him because you weren't sure when you're going to get him, if he was going to be available or not. So you probably overdrafted a lot of running backs. You probably have a surplus of running backs if you were to trade Zeke away to get, say, like a guy like Mike Evans or Jordy Nelson. That's fine.
Right.
especially if he goes to court on the second and they say, you know what, the suspension stands. That sucks.
Yeah, that really does suck if you try to hold. You know, you do have Zeke. But then here's my other thing, too. You know, if people are trying to leverage you because they know that Zeke has this pending court date and they think that you're trying to sell him and, you know, and they're trying to get you shit for him, I don't think that you should be in panic mode. I think that you should be like, oh, well, you're giving me fucking shit offers.
I'm keeping him. If I drafted him in the second round or whatever, wherever I drafted him, I'm keeping him.
Yeah, exactly. Only trade him if you're getting good value for him. If you're getting even value for him, sure thing. But if you're getting shit offers and people are trying to leverage you, don't do it. Just sit with him.
If I'm a Zeke owner, I'm just confident enough in my abilities to be able to make the playoffs without him. And if he comes back in time for the playoffs, then that's great. I have him now, you know?
Exactly. That's a good way to put it.
Let's do a little bit of station identification. We're part of the BS Podcast Network. We're part of the Gold Tier. You can find them on www.bspodcastnetwork.com. And we also want to let you know that it's not too late to get injury insurance on your top players. If you go on to www.rotosurance.com, that's Roto, SURANCE.com. You just put in the amount of your league buy-in, and you select the player that you want to take a claim out on. And right now, since there's already 2 games out of the season that have been played, if your player misses 6 or more games, you get 100% of your league buy-in, no questions asked. And if you enter in the coupon code 5DFF, you get 20% off on any claim on your players. This is great. I got it on Le'Veon Bell just in case, and you know what? Hopefully I don't have to use it.
Hey, man, now I realize, you know, I know David Johnson didn't have an injury history before this season, but, you know, I wish I would have got it on David Johnson. That would have protected me for this league, but I've been
got to protect your team.
I've been forced now to rely on, like, my skills as a team manager instead of just being like, well, fuck it, whatever happens, happens, you know? Like, it definitely alleviates a lot of stress, so I highly recommend you get it because you never know when it's going to hit your team, and, you know, your whole buy-in could be wasted because you lose a guy like David Johnson, so.
You never know when the injury bug's going to come and rape you in the ass.
That's what happened to me, man. It was horrible. Borderline rape.
All right, you ready to jump into some of these matchups?
Dive in.
First matchup we're going to have here is Baltimore going on the road against Jacksonville. Baltimore is 4-point favorites. The over and under is set at 39.5. This is the lowest over and under this week. Well, it was tied with the Rams and the 49ers. But, guys, I just want to let you guys know that this game's going to be played in London, so it's going to be starting at 9:30 Eastern Time in the morning. So set your alarms or put your lineups in the night before so that way you don't forget. And especially for you guys on the West Coast, I know that game starts at 6:30 in the morning, so I don't blame you for not wanting to watch that game. It's going to be a snooze fest. Who do you like here on the Baltimore side of the ball, K-Mill?
Well, you know, speaking on people I like on the Baltimore side, I like Jeremy Maclin this week. I think he's going to have a pretty good week because Jalen Ramsey was held out of practice Thursday, but he also played through the ankle injury last week. However, you know, even if he is able to suit up for this game, I think that he's going to be a little bit hobbled, maybe not at his total A game. So I'm thinking that, you know, any kind of coverage that Jeremy Maclin receives is going to be kind of subpar. So I think that he's going to have a pretty good week. So if you want to, you know, throw him in your flex, you know, I like him as an RB3 this week.
Yeah, and, you know, I think Baltimore, they're using him in the slot more than he's ever played in the slot in Kansas City. So they've been using Mike Wallace on the outside. Jeremy Maclin, he's been a bit touchdown dependent through 2 weeks. I don't think he's gotten over 50 yards, but he has touchdowns in both weeks. He like you said, he's probably going to play against. I think is a pretty tough secondary, if you had to ask me. I mean, yeah, like I guess you could put him as a WR3 because, just because of they got to throw the ball to somebody. I do think though a guy they'll utilize is the old man Ben Watson. He went 8 for 91 last week, so I think those two are going to be the main guys.
Yeah, we know that Flacco loves the tight end, so that could be a thing again. Who knows? But I like Macklin. I think that we're dealing with I know that the Jaguars have a good front seven. That they're gonna guard well against the run. So I'm not too concerned about Allen's fantasy value this week, but I like the receivers in Baltimore this week.
Yeah. There's been some rumblings from Mike Wallace about him getting more involved in the offense because he hasn't been really getting targeted, and I think they're trying to. Do you think maybe they try to get him involved early just to kind of keep him quiet, keep him happy, type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I see most of Flacco's deep looks going to Wallace. However, I don't.
I just think he's gonna get bullied.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that, honestly, he's borderline droppable at this point, I think, in a lot of fantasy.
I was just about to say, if you have Mike Wallace, you need a roster spot for something better, you can go ahead cut bait with him.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the Baltimore offense has been a run first kind of the Terrence West and Allen and Buck Allen show. So. Feel free to employ those guys. Maybe not so much Terrence West, but
Terrence West has a calf injury. I don't know if he's been practicing at all, but I know he's a little bit hobbled up. Buck Allen has 35 carries through 2 weeks. I think they'll probably lean on him to take most of the workload. I know they also got Alex Collins over there. He's probably going to get the change of pace looks. I don't know if he's really worth starting, but I think he could make an interesting bench stash.
Yeah, it could be interesting to see how they end up using him. Yeah, Terrence West, it sounds like he might not actually be able to go from what I'm reading, at least from the last update. He didn't appear at practice on Thursday, so it's heavily putting his status in doubt. So I don't know about what he did on Friday, but if he can't go, I think that it's probably going to be Alex Collins. I wouldn't view that too much as a fantasy, value though.
I think that pretty much covers it for the Baltimore side of the ball. Like we said, Baltimore has been trying to cover up Flacco. I think a lot early this year with a lot of the runs. I think that'll continue this week. It's going to be a slugfest. Let's go over to the other side of the ball. This is another team that's trying to limit their quarterback. They want to run the ball as much as possible. So, I mean, this is an offense that has regressed in nature. When you only want to run the ball and you let everyone in the world know that's what you're doing, you are officially playing 1950s type football right now. That's what we're looking at when we look at the Jacksonville offense.
Yeah.
If you're Leonard Fournette, if you have a Leonard Fournette owner, are you thinking about trying to handcuff him at this point if he's going to get this heavy workload?
Yeah, I probably would. But then at the same time, think about like who are you going to handcuff him with? What, fucking T.J. Yeldon or?
I think it'd be Chris Ivory.
Yeah, Chris Ivory. I mean, these two backs didn't really combine to do a whole lot last year. So I think if you're handcuffing them, you're kind of wasting a bench spot because. These guys, I think the Jaguars have, absolutely no confidence in them because they're, last year they weren't even utilized, and when they were, they were very touchdown dependent. So I'm not really thinking about handcuffing these guys too much.
Obviously it's really hard to trust either one of the receivers over here in Jacksonville with this run-heavy offense. You got Marquise Lee and Allen Hurns. I think they're both wide receiver 4s this week. Both of them, I think, have limited upside, though. I think this is going to be I just don't think Baltimore has a good enough offense to where they're really going to pull away from Jacksonville to where you're going to see the garbage time that both of these receivers are going to excel in. So I just don't, and also Baltimore has a pretty good defense, so it's not like those garbage time points can just come so easily either. So I'm not really looking to play either one of these guys. I guess if you wanted to play like the bigger upside guy would be Allen Hurns. The PPR guy would be Lee.
Yeah, true. I totally agree with what you just said. I think if you're looking for, you're thinking about the touchdown, you're thinking about Allen Hurns. You know, if you're like, but that's total touchdown dependent. If you're thinking about a PPR league, you definitely go Lee. But I think we pretty much covered everything in this matchup.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, pretty much stay away from all your Jaguars except for Leonard Fournette. If you're Leonard Fournette owner, you really need the touchdown for him to return his value. He's a touchdown dependent RB2. Let's go over to another game that's kind of ugly. Cleveland on the road against the Colts. The over and under here is at 40. Early in the week, it was at Pick'em. I think now, though, Cleveland is favored by 1 point on the road. Man, what another shitty game.
Yeah, I'm definitely not watching this one. And by the way, guys, it's the first time since 2015 that Cleveland has been favored to win a game. To put in.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy to think about?
Yeah, now the franchise is suddenly doing a 180.
Yeah, no, not so much the case. I mean, where do we start here? I guess we start on the Browns.
I do like the moves they're making though.
Yeah, I do. I think that they're going in the right direction. But speaking on who I think can be effective in this matchup, I know the Colts have kind of had a suffocating D, lately as far as the run goes. I say that lightly because I really don't give the Colts D much respect at all. So I'm going to say let the crow fly this week, baby. Let Isaiah Crowell do his thing. If you're an Isaiah Crowell owner, I'm giving you the green light. You just fly him out there. All right?
You're hoping for this. You're really hoping for this. But,
yeah.
they only give up 2.5 yards a carry so far. They did play the 49ers, and I know they played Todd Gurley. They shut Todd Gurley down. You think? I think this is going to be I do think this will be a low-scoring game. Crowell will get the volume. If you're a Crowell owner, are you waiting on this game to see what he does before you do something with him?
I think that a lot of Crowell owners are getting sort of anxious about him. I wouldn't be so much. I definitely wouldn't want to force a trade with him. But at the same time, I think that he's been challenging Hugh Jackson, his head coach, to get more carries. So I think
he was asking for it.
He was asking for it. He's like, let me fly, coach. Let the crow fly. So I think that Hugh Jackson's going to unleash the crow this week, and I think that Crow's going to get he's going to get the workload that he's been wanting. And I mean, he's been getting the carries, just not the yards per carries. But I think it's all going to come together this week against a Colts D. And I think another guy that could be kind of sneaky this week is Duke Johnson Jr. The Colts have one of the worst Ds as far as defending receiving backs. So I think that Duke Johnson could be like a very sneaky. If you have nothing else to play, flex play. He
was actually a pretty decent flex play last week. And of course that was the week I dropped him. Then he had a good week.
Right.
I do see the Crow getting his wings loose a little bit in this one, but I do think this is gonna be a low scoring game. And what I do think that Kaiser, he's been really struggling. What did he have? I think he mysteriously came out of the game last week, and they said it was like a migraine.
Are you talking about the Crow?
No, I'm talking about Sean Kaiser.
Oh yeah. That was kind of puzzling. I did notice.
Yes, I mean that is one little weird thing I wanted to note on him. Like the Indianapolis Colts are giving up 2.5 yards a carry against the run. That's on 58 carries. But they'd also give up the second most points to wide receivers in PPR leagues. Rashad Higgins come up off the practice squad for Cleveland and really soaked in a lot of targets. And if you guys are familiar with Matt Harmon's reception perception, he was like one of the top 5 receivers at getting open in his rookie class. He just didn't get to see the field a whole lot because he was stuck behind guys like Terrell Pryor, Corey Coleman, and now they really don't have anything else. Like, I think he's kind of going to be the guy. Kenny Britt looks like the next Dwayne Bowe over there, so I don't think we really have to worry about him. If you have Kenny Britt and you're hoping for him, I think you could probably see how he does this week, and you're going to find out he looks like shit, then you can just drop him.
Yeah, which is probably going to be the case, but yeah, definitely, Britt, do not play him under any circumstances. Rashad Higgins, I think you can flex him this week maybe, depending on your options. And then
I got him at wide receiver 21.
Hey, I mean, he could be sneaky this week, so. But I think that's pretty much it on the Brown side of the ball.
Yeah, and if we go over to the other side of the ball, are you trusting anyone like T.Y. Hilton or Dante Moncrief? I think T.Y. Hilton's like a boomer bust wide receiver 3 at this point with Jacoby Brissett behind the helm.
Yeah, it's so hard to trust them, man. If you have other options, like I would even play like a Jeremy Maclin over a T.Y. Hilton at this point, and as unfortunate as that is to say, I think it's come to that. So do those kind of moves. I wouldn't play him unless you're absolutely desperate. And
yeah, right now I know you had to spend the draft capital on T.Y., but when you're actually playing the game of football, those draft values have to go away, and you have to play the best player. And right now, that's not him. Not with luck.
Right.
Not without luck.
Yeah, the start your studs always strategy doesn't get you anywhere. Don't do that.
So under extreme circumstances like this, you just gotta weigh the pros and cons, and you gotta kind of play the matchups with T.Y. a little bit. I think actually though, this isn't a terrible matchup for him. If you're like an underdog in a matchup, I think you could plug him in your flex and maybe just hope for a long one. But Brissett looked like he was really keyed in on Jack Doyle last week. They gave him quite a few looks. I think that he's kind of like a popular guy that everyone wants to play this week because Cleveland is terrible against the tight ends. They give up the second most PPR points to tight ends at 23.7. So I think that's actually an area where I think that Brissett's going to look for. Marlon Mack is out with a shoulder injury. Are you looking for Frank Gore to have a good game in this one, or are you just kind of trying to stay away?
No, I actually like Frank Gore this week. I think that he could be a nice play in your flex this week, or however you decide to employ him. I don't think that the Browns have a too formidable run defense, and Frank Gore he looked pretty spry last week. He had a pretty decent week last week, and he looked like he wasn't old as hell. And as Joe Pagano would say, or Chuck Pagano would say, beat to shit.
Yeah, I mean, any guy that hasn't missed a game in like 10 years, he's probably in pretty good shape.
Yeah, so I would fire Frank Gore up this week. I like him.
I think that pretty much covers this game, though.
Yeah, let's move on.
All right, let's go. The New York Giants going on the road against Philadelphia. And could you believe it? The Giants are about to go 0-3. I'm calling it right now. They're not going to go into Philadelphia and beat this team. Philadelphia is 6-point favorites at home. The over and under set at 43. I think if Ben Roethlisberger and Jay Cutler or whatever just fuck and have a kid, it'd be born to come out to be Carson Wentz. I think Carson Wentz is the next gunslinger in this league.
Yeah, I mean, he's got all the intangibles to do it, and I agree with you. I think there's no way that New York comes out with a win in this game. They look # bad at football, and it's not going to get any better.
Yeah, this is my defensive stream of the week. Is Philadelphia. I got them as my third best defense this week, only behind Denver and Baltimore. We all know how bad the New York Giants O-line is. Apparently, apparently a lot of coaching, like the coaching and like a lot of the fans think it's Eli, but it's the offensive line. And Philadelphia is averaging 4 sacks a game. So I think they're really going to get after Eli, and it's going to be a long game for him, and he's going to leave this one black and blue.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Eli was just bad last year, but this year I see him making good decisions, but man, he has no time back there. That offensive line is giving him no time, and it really highlights how important an offensive line is to a football team. And OBJ, if he does suit up for this game, which he probably will, it still sounds like he's not 100%. So I would be careful employing him as well.
What are you doing if you're a Paul Perkins owner right now?
Fuck, man. I was until a couple weeks ago until I made a trade, but at this
So you
point,
already did the right thing then.
Yeah, I know. You either have to, nobody's going to want him in a trade now, so you have to drop him. I mean,
yeah, that's all I'm saying. If you have him, you shouldn't have him anymore. Just drop him. You don't even have to pick anybody up. Just drop him off your roster.
Yeah, just get him out of there and pick up
the headache's gone. Just remove the Band-Aid and the headache will go away.
Yeah, you wasted a draft pick. It is what it is.
And I think you can almost do the same thing with Brandon Marshall.
Yes, you can. Absolutely.
Forgetting Brandon Marshall.
I can do both. Brandon Marshall out of there.
Yeah. When I sent you that text message, I didn't realize that it was actually Brandon Marshall, the defensive linebacker for the Denver Broncos. And there's people that were sending him tweets asking why he wasn't catching the ball from Eli Manning, and he was just trolling him. It was fucking hilarious.
That was
made
awesome.
it made it even more funnier when I found out it wasn't the one they're looking for.
He was not the Brandon Marshall they were looking for.
Yeah. Sorry, dude.
How do you feel about OBJ this week? I want to hear.
I think he'll be all right. Another week removed from his injury. I think the healthier he'll get, ultimately, the better that team will get. The only thing is I don't think they're going to really be able to use him deep down the field. They're going to have to use him on his crossing routes, these quick slants. That's the only thing they're going to be able to do at this point with that line.
Yeah.
I think I'm really concerned if I'm Brandon Marshall because, it looks like Sterling Shepard's getting some decent playing time. It seems like they really like Evan Ingram. Do you think Evan Ingram plays this week? He seems like he suffered a concussion on Monday night.
Yeah, I think that he will end up playing. As far as I've learned, the signs are pretty good for him to play this weekend. His status isn't really too much in jeopardy. He looks good. I like what he's doing, but the thing is, he's not much of a blocker. So I think that New York is letting too much on when he's on the field. Teams know he's not going to block, so we need a blitz. Well,
I think the more that Brandon Marshall starts to struggle, the more they're just going to want to just use Evan Ingram in the slot. And the way you fix that to make teams not predict what you're going to do is you're going to have to bring in the other tight end, Rhett Ellison. I've talked about this many times. You're going to have to bring him in line, and now they can run out of that formation or they can throw, and that ultimately work out a little bit better for him, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I think, though, a guy that could be a sneaky flex play this week is Shane Vereen. Through 2 weeks, teams have had a 71% success rate thrown to running backs against Philadelphia. Philadelphia's 29th against defending the running backs out of the backfield. Shane Vereen could have a nice day receiving the ball very well. He's going to lead the backfield in fantasy points this week.
Yeah, I think that's trending more his way. Shane Vereen is doing more with less, and I think it's only a matter of time until Coach McAdoo finally, so funny saying his name, finally makes the switch and just lets Shane Vereen, take care of all the work because Paul Perkins obviously can't get it done. So.
Well, I think they're going to get Orleans Darkwa a little bit more involved too.
Yeah, definitely.
I think he actually looked better. He looked better than Paul Perkins did. Orleans Darkwa. I always thought he looked better.
Yeah, I have to. So yeah, but let's just move to the other side of the ball. Who do you like?
Well, I want to know, what are you doing if you own one of these running backs in this backfield? Like, I just wonder, like, what's wrong with you? Are you insane?
Yeah, I mean, like, the only one even worth owning at this point is probably Darren Sproles. But at the same time, you can't really count too much into that. You got to, like...
I just don't want the headaches.
Yeah, same here. I'm the same. I don't want any of these backs, none of them. And, like, when Garrett Blunt even came out last week and said, I don't really care about your fantasy teams at this point because he got 0 points. He gave you a big fat goose egg. So I'm saying, you know, the only one even worth owning is Darren Sproles. And I wouldn't even play him unless, like, I had no better option.
A bye week.
Yeah.
I think, like I was saying, Carson Wentz, he's a gunslinger, dude. I think through the 2 weeks, he's already he leads the league in most interceptable passes, like passes that weren't intercepted, but they should have been.
Yeah. Brian Fitzpatrick.
Like, I mean, it's really good for fantasy owners. For if like you have Alshon Jeffrey or you have Zach Ertz, it's really good for you. But it's not good for Philadelphia owners. Like Philadelphia fans. You know, if you're a fan of the franchise, that's not what you want to hear.
Yeah, it's really not.
But I mean, he definitely has an arm. He makes a lot of nice throws though. Yeah, so far this year. You have Alshon Jeffrey. Janoris Jenkins was the Giants' top corner. Is he going to be out? I think he's questionable. He hasn't practiced this week.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything noteworthy on him. It sounds like he's up in the air for it, but
he didn't play last week either.
Yeah, so it's kind of up in the air right now. But as far as my readings go, it sounds like he's still questionable for this weekend, and I haven't heard anything. He hasn't been ruled out yet, so kind of a big thing. But if he does play, I think it's a big deal for Alshon Jeffrey owners. Yeah,
I mean, I would put Eli Apple on him, and I think he'd bully him.
I think so too. Yeah.
How are you feeling now after Nelson Aguilar? Now that you've seen what happened in week 2.
I'm waiting for this offense to solve itself because I think that Nelson Aguilar, if there was an injury to, I don't want to, do the handcuffing concept on receivers, but I think if something were to happen to Alshon Jeffrey, and we know his injury history, I think that Nelson Aguilar could have some really nice value going forward. But he still had a decent, he was touchdown dependent in week 2. And I think that that's going to be more towards the norm than what happened in week 1.
Yeah, see, the reasoning behind you liking Aguilar because of Alshon's injury history is the exact reason why I was a little bit more aggressive when it came to getting Zach Ertz on my team. I figured that Zach Ertz would probably be that top guy if Alshon was to go down, and I'm not hoping for any type of injuries or anything, but I'm going to build my team around an injury that would help me, not hurt me. That'd be Zach Ertz. I know he's on pace for nearly 1,600 yards through 2 games. I know it's not a pace he's going to be able to keep, but could you imagine him getting like a nice solid 60 to 70 yard floor? And even if he just gets 5 or 6 touchdowns, you're getting yourself a top 5 tight end. So that's why I really was aggressive about Zach Ertz. I think that he's going to be a big part of this offense, and he's going to have a great game this week. We just seen Ebron score a touchdown against this defense. I think that Zach Ertz is going to be at least good for, like I said, 60 to 70 yards, and you can fire him up as your tight end 1.
Yeah, I think that whenever you have a young quarterback and you get their tight end, I think it's a good decision because they're their check down receiver. But yeah, I mean, I say Ertz is a total fire him up every week. But
yeah, he's usually you see Zach Ertz warm up towards the second half of the season, and we're starting to see it in the beginning of the season, and it makes you think, wow, can he do this all year? That
would be awesome.
All right, let's go on to Miami going on the road against the Jets. We could do this one pretty fast. Miami's favored by 6. Over and under set at 42. You ready for this one? Jay Cutler is my stream of the week. It's a popular stream, I know, but it's a really good matchup because the Jets look like a fucking dumpster fire. So you could start up Jay Cutler, and I think if you are a Marcus Mariota owner, he has 2 tough matchups in this week and next week that you're not going to really want to start Marcus Mariota. You can pick up Jay Cutler off the waiver wire. He's available in a lot of leagues. You can pick him up. You can stream him this week against the Jets. Next week he plays the Saints, and then you can dump him, and then you're ready for Mariota again.
Yeah, that's a good idea. It's definitely a good idea. Some key injuries to watch out for in this game. The Jets, it sounds like Matt Forte is going to be available on Sunday. Nobody cares because you're probably not starting him anyways. On the Miami Dolphins side, you got Jay Ajayi. He's been limited in practice pretty much all week, but it sounds like there's no doubt in his status. He's going to be able to go. You should fire him up as a no-doubt RB1 this week. So just
I think they're just taking it easy on him.
Yeah, exactly. They're just limiting his reps. They know his injury history, so they're just trying to keep him healthy all season.
Yeah, I got Jay Ajayi as my second-ranked running back this week. So
yeah,
I'm really liking him.
Yeah, I think that he's going to be a good play this week. Jarvis Landry was also listed as questionable. I think that I'm in the camp of I think that his performance last week was kind of an outlier because
Jason Vermette was out.
Yeah, well, because he's dependent on the volume, because he got a lot of targets and everything, and they were mostly just like check down stuff, he averaged I think 3.2 yards per reception, which isn't good, and Devontae Parker got a lot of targets, and he was able to do something with those, and I think that Devontae Parker has a lot of upside this week compared to Jarvis Landry, where I don't really think that every week he's going to be dependent on how many passes he catch. I think that in a PPR league he could be valuable, but in the end I don't think that he's really going to be very valuable for your fantasy team. And if I were a Jarvis Landry owner, I'd be trying to sell him high pretty soon.
I mean, what do you see Jarvis Landry this week? Do you see him as a wide receiver 2 or more like a wide receiver 3?
This is the Jets, so anybody can look good against the Jets. So I'd say I'd probably put him as a borderline, wide receiver 2, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I can safely put Landry as a wide receiver 2, and I got Parker as more of a wide receiver 3, but with a lot of upside that can and easily being a wide receiver 1. So that's kind of where I'm at with those two. I don't think you really got to worry about Julius Thomas. He just looks like he's suffered too many lower body injuries to really make much of an impact this year. To go over to the other side of the ball real quick, I know you're probably in panic mode if you're a Bilal Powell owner. Are you just sitting him on your bench? Are you trying to trade him, or are you just going to cut him? You don't even want him wasting the bench spot, or what?
As a Bilal Powell owner, hey, you put me on the spot again. I was the guy that took a chance on him. I know that if I didn't pick him, you were probably going to pick him. But yeah, I'm kind of in panic mode about this. It seems like he was a wasted pick. There were a lot of better players. I think I got him in the same round. You could have got Doug Martin, for instance, and just waited on him for a couple of weeks. But yeah, I think that right now there's not a lot of owners that really want Bilal Powell because they see how he's being utilized and they don't really want to take a chance on him. If you can find one, sure, package him in a deal, throw him at the end of a trade offer and be done with him. But at this point, I think that there's still a chance, that Matt Forte can go down with injury and then he could be relevant. The problem with Bilal Powell is he's in a 3-man timeshare right now, and that's just horrible for his fantasy value. I wouldn't say straight up drop him, because I think that's what, other teams want you to do because they want to pick him up and stash him on their bench. So I'd say for right now, hold him for a couple more weeks if you can't afford it. If you can't, I understand, drop him. But if you can afford it, I would hold him for a couple more weeks.
To me, it doesn't make sense to drop him right now. He had 2 bad weeks, but I think straight up dropping him is just a overreaction move that I don't endorse at all. To me, I think that what I would do is I would just put him on my bench and just try to wait it out. He's usually a second-half player, And you're really not going to get anything for him in a trade, so I'm really not trying to trade him because, I mean, I'm just going to trade my crap that I don't want for someone else's crap that they don't want, and I don't want that crap, so, you know, I'm going to end up cutting that player, and then it's like, what was the point of the trade, you know?
Yeah, it's not like Bilal Powell doesn't have upside, you know. I mean, last year at the end, I think for the last 3 or 4 games, he was putting up RB1 numbers. So this guy, if there's an injury to Matt Forte, you pretty much just have a lottery ticket on your bench. You know, if he goes in there, yeah.
You really got to think the people that drafted Bilal Powell. When they drafted them, they knew going into it when they drafted them that he's going to be playing with a lot of negative game script and that they're going to be relying on him getting the short dump-off passes, and we really haven't seen that yet. And I'm sure that's something that could change as the season goes on.
Right, exactly. And then here's the other thing, too, that I think people are missing as well. You have to understand that Bilal Powell is not just a one-dimensional runner. He's not just going to run between the tackles. He can do both. He can do both, okay? So, you know, he can do both. Everything. And the thing is, dude, is he's going to see all the volume he can fucking handle if, you know, Matt Forte and Elijah McGuire aren't seeing anything, you know. He's going to be the guy. So if just Matt Forte goes down with an injury, you got a lottery ticket waiting right there. And, you know, I don't see why you can't. Because the Jets' offense wasn't any better last year. So, you know, why the fuck not, you know?
I actually think it got a little bit worse.
Well, it did. I'm just saying, like, it wasn't very good last year to begin with.
No. Yeah, no. I mean, right now their number one receiver is Jermaine Kearse. And he's number 5 tight end in fantasy right now in PPR leagues. That's not going to last. And
yeah.
I don't think he even has any trade value anyways, because I think everyone knows that he's fool's gold, but he will be, you know, their top option de facto style. But ASJ's coming back this week, but the coach says he needs to get in shape, so that's not good.
Yeah.
I know he was the sneaky like little waiver wire streamer that everyone wanted to talk about, but I'm not going down that path. No, thank you.
And the Jets usually don't utilize their tight ends. Nothing to see here, folks. Let's move on.
Yep. Let's go over to New Orleans going on the road against Carolina. Do you think that the New Orleans Saints will start out 0-3? I think that typically they do tend to struggle against Carolina on the road. So I think you got to bump Drew Brees down a little bit. I think that he'll struggle a little bit against this defense.
Yeah, you know what? New Orleans just seems to struggle on the road. You know, if they're not playing at the Superdome, then they're really not, you know, playing to begin with. One notable injury, though, to Carolina is Cam Newton didn't throw in practice on Thursday. It seemed like he was hurt on a sack that he received at the end of the game they played against the Bills on Sunday, and he has a bum knee. But I think that his status really isn't in doubt, as far as I know. So I think that I love his matchup this week, but he has been missing some easy throws, so I would do it with caution.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a test for Carolina, you know. They only put up 9 points against Buffalo. This is going to be a test. Can they keep up with the New Orleans Saints offense? I don't necessarily think this is a gimme game for them by any means, but I am a believer in their defense. And especially with the Saints playing on the road, they typically do struggle. I think, though, this is a game where Carolina is going to really rely on the arm of Cam Newton, despite, you know, I think the Saints' number 1 corner is out, though. The Marshawn Lattimore, their first-round draft pick, so that's their only corner that was worth a damn. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. But I do think that they'll go run heavy in this one. I think you can probably use Christian McCaffrey. I got him as a top 10 option this week. He's our RB1 in my eyes. And I think you can also use Jonathan Stewart in the flex. I think that he's usable this week.
Yeah, I definitely think so, too. I also think that you fire McCaffrey up, too, as well. I know he's disappointed in, 2 straight weeks, but I think that, he's against the Saints team that has allowed, like, a league leading against receiving running backs. So I think that both of these guys are good plays this week. I think that pretty much anybody you can really stream against this New Orleans defense.
Yeah, and,
I didn't like Benjamin to get a touchdown. Shit, I hate that guy, but he's probably going to get a touchdown.
Well, their number one corner is out, so that does bump Kelvin Benjamin up a little bit. Even though I don't think he's the best receiver on his team, I think that's Devin Funchess, but that's for another story for another time. I do think Ed Dickson, he's going to be a replacement for Greg Olsen. This is a guy we kind of missed during the waiver wire show. We don't normally miss guys like this, but we did. I think Ed Dickson is my stream of the week at tight end. The Saints give up one of the most points to tight ends in the league right now. And I think that this is an excellent streaming option if you have Greg Olsen and you need to either put him on IR or you could just drop him for Ed Dickson if you're trying to stream guys.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think I can see it.
Yeah, you just got to keep in mind, though, he is typically more known to be a blocker, but so that could open the doors for Devin Funchess if they start using him in the slot a little bit more. They might opt to go that route instead.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's go over to the other side of the ball, K-Mill. What you got for the New Orleans Saints?
Yeah, like you said, Marshawn Lattimore, but I have been reading on his injuries, and it sounds like he is going to play. It seems like it's iffy. Still
I just read it today on Fantasy Pros that he was out.
Really? Okay. All right. And that must be some updated information than what I'm reading, because I heard that he has a chest injury and that he could play. He's also in concussion protocol, I think, or maybe I'm getting him confused with another player, but. Anyways, he's out with the concussion. That's what it is. Gotcha. Okay. All right, that makes sense then. Anyways, I still think that you can fire Drew Brees up. I think he's going to be his typical self, even against a tough defense.
Is he a top 5 option?
I would downgrade him a little bit because he does have a tough matchup this week, but I do think that he is a top 10 option.
Yeah, I got him right at the cusp at number 10.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say, too, that, Michael Thomas, I think the offense is going to kind of go through him, and I think that Mark Ingram could also be effective this week.
Yeah, I mean, I do kind of like Mark Ingram in the flex. I think this is a game for him and Alvin Kamara. They can really shine in this one. I'm big on Michael Thomas this week. What are you doing? If you're a Ted Ginn owner, did you drop him already? Or are you waiting to drop him? Is this the game that you're waiting to see, or is he already off your team?
Listen, folks. I can't drop him for you. Only you can do that, but I can give you my number. Please drop him.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't done a whole lot without Snead in the lineup. So he blew. I think he blew his opportunity.
I'm going to quote Dennis Green here and say, they are who we thought they were, and that's exactly who Ted Ginn is. He is who you thought he is. He's exactly the same Ted Ginn. He's just with the same high-power offense. He's the same Ted Ginn, though, that you hate, so just drop him.
Yeah, Brandon Coleman, he had a nice little game last week. I think it was like 4 for 84. I think he scored a touchdown. Would you rather start him over Ginn at this point?
I would be hard-pressed to trust either, but I think if you had a gun to my head and I had to choose, I'd probably say Coleman.
Yeah. I think in a deep league you can start Coleman. I'm still excited about Fleener. I think you could start Fleener as a tight end one this week. Nothing to worry there. I know he's been a little bit touchdown dependent, but what better offense to be touchdown dependent than the Saints?
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. What's that?
I said I think you could fire up Coby Fleener as a tight end one this week. I know he's been a little bit touchdown dependent, but what better offense is there to be touchdown dependent than the Saints?
Yeah, I think that you can still fire Fleener up though. However, I think once Willie Snead comes back, I think that his fantasy value is going to dry up a little bit because I think that Willie Snead's going to get a lot of the looks that he's looking at. But I think for this week, I think you can still fire him up as a tight end one.
Yeah. let's go over to Denver. They're going on the road against Buffalo. Denver's favored by 3 on the road. Over and under set at 40. I think this is a set of this is set in stone to be a nice little slugfest, don't you think?
Yeah, I can see it happening.
Yeah, I mean, Denver right now they're giving up 2.9 yards per carry. Buffalo they look like they have a stifling run defense right now. They have 2.7 yards per carry against the run. So I mean that's pretty scary. They also give up the least amount of fantasy points to running backs. Are you a little bit concerned if you're a C.J. Anderson owner right now?
Hey man, if I were to have tooted my horn early in the week, I would say you want to sell C.J. Anderson kind of high. I don't know how long it's going to last. He does have an injury history, so I'd be careful on those waters. At the same time, though, I would still feel comfortable with him. He had a monster game last week against Dallas, and he could continue on this week.
Yeah, I mean, despite how good Buffalo's run defense looks, I think I'd feel okay playing CJ. I think that he's still going to get the volume, and I think that he'll have a similar game to what he had in week 1. I don't really see him scoring a touchdown in this one, but he can get you something like 20 carries for like 78 yards, like nothing spectacular, but it'll do for like a flex option,
Yeah, he'll get it done for sure.
Yep. How you liking these wide receivers?
Oh man.
Yeah. One more thing about C.J. Anderson though. 1/3 of C.J. Anderson's carries have gone for 5 yards or more.
Wow, that's an interesting stat. I didn't even know that.
So I mean, he's looked pretty great, And so I do understand why you would want to try to sell him high.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, his value might not get any higher than it is right now, but you might want to keep him because if he's going to keep this season-long value, I mean, you got yourself a gem. You got him in the 4th round. But speaking on the receivers, though, it's so hard to pick one, each week because they've both been good, but Trevor Siemian's played well. Demaryius Thomas has been pretty effective. He hasn't scored a touchdown yet, which is kind of disappointing, but they'll come. He's had the yardage, though. I mean, both his games, he's had over 50 yards in both games. And Emmanuel Sanders has been the guy that's been getting the touchdowns. So I think that you could really fire either of those guys up this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd feel comfortable with either one of these ones in. I do think this will be a lower scoring game, but as far as PPR is concerned, I think you could fire them both up and get close to wide receiver 2 value. I think maybe wide receiver 3 value is their floor. So I think that's not too bad. Really no tight end to speak of though for Denver. Is there anyone else you want to talk about? Trevor Siemian is the number 1 quarterback overall in fantasy football right now. Are you not excited about that?
Are you not entertained? No.
We already used that line on the last episode.
I know. I wanted to steal some lines, man. I had to do it. It's my weekly trademark. But
man, why do we even podcast?
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I didn't
No, I'm just fucking with you.
Yeah, maybe it's a sign we do too many of these. Anyways, though, I love what I've seen out of the kid. He does have some passes where I think sometimes they should be picks and they're not, but he's been throwing the ball with confidence, and he doesn't have the arm strength to be like a Tom Brady or Peyton Manning, but at the end of the day, he's getting it done. He's like a younger Alex Smith, I think.
I mean, he's really just getting it done, but he still doesn't really have the volume. It's like throwing the ball 32 times a game or something like that. So he's not really being asked to do a whole lot. He just, he's not going to get you 4 touchdowns every week,
Yeah, he's just going to do enough to get it done, and that's it. That's what Coach Vance Joseph wants to do. He just wants them to throw it when necessary, but they don't necessarily need to win the game with his arm. That they count more on C.J. Anderson to get it done on the ground to win a game, and that defense to make some key stops.
Yeah. Anything else about the Broncos?
Nah, let's move on.
Let's go to the Buffalo Bills. They give up, like I said, the least amount of points to fantasy running backs. So that's pretty much all they got going though for them is the run defense. They really don't have anything as far as offense. They just lost their left guard. Their left tackle. Their left tackle's out for this game. So that's going to spell some even more issues for the net passing game. Tyrod Taylor, do you think that maybe he's going to use his legs a little bit more in this one? I think that's what he's going to have to do. He's going to have to get a little bit more creative. They really don't have that deep threat anymore now that Sammy Watkins is gone, and their offense just looks really limited.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. LaShawn McCoy he's been battling wrist and groin issues, so look for that this week. And it's also bad news that he's facing the Broncos because they are they bottled up Zeke to 8 yards rushing last week. So, he could be a guy that, I know it's asinine to think it's a bit shady, but, you might have to this week. So I would just say, if you have a better option, I might consider it because this is a bad matchup against an injured player.
I mean, it is pretty intimidating when you look at the fact that what they did to Zeke. It makes you think twice before playing a running back against Denver. And this is like the big question is like, do you take that chance? And this is the prime example of, are you going to let draft capital get in the way of you making a good decision? This is the prime example. You have to make these tough decisions. These are the kind of decisions that could ultimately win or lose you weeks. And, I think that if I'm if I'm like 0-2, I'm not playing McCoy this week. I'm playing someone maybe with a little bit more upside.
Yeah, same. I'm same on this one. You can't always start your stud. That's an asinine approach to it.
I mean, this is the ultimate test. I think that's like the ultimate test of testing your draft capital. You just spent a first-round draft pick to get McCoy. Now, what are you gonna? You might have had to spend a top 5 pick on him. Are you gonna play him against Denver because of that?
No, I mean, I'm not, but but then moving on too, you're not gonna play Jordan Matthews. You might want to play, a Charles Clay. I wouldn't be too comfortable playing a Tyrod Taylor, so there's really not much else to speak of.
I don't want nothing to do with this offense this week.
Yeah, and
we can just move on.
Yeah, we can just move on. Let's go.
Yeah. Let's go Pittsburgh on the road against Chicago. Pittsburgh is favored by 7.5 points. The over and under here is set at 44. I think that's an interesting little over and under. I think if you're trying to bet on over and unders, I would definitely try to bet the over on that one. I think that that's a little bit low in this one. To make things simple, if you own a Pittsburgh Steeler, I think you could play him. The only one that you might want to think about is a guy like Jesse James, but I think you could play all the Bs and be fine with it.
Yeah, I think you just fire them all up. This is a Chicago team that just obviously sucks, and they're not going to do anything. And they have Mike Lennon, throwing the ball around. So that tells you all you need to know. So, yeah. Fire up all the Steelers this week. I don't really think we need to dive too much into it. If you got Le'Veon Bell, you're starting him. If you got Antonio Brown, you're going to start him. If you got Martavis Bryant, fuck it, start him too.
I just want to say, though, if you're a Le'Veon Bell owner, don't be discouraged about the first 2 weeks. I know he hasn't really gotten you the point total that you're accustomed to seeing out of him yet, but the good news is his snap count was up to last week, so he looked like he was getting a lot of carries, and it looks like that's going to continue going forward. He's healthy. Don't worry about it. Continue to play him. This isn't a bad matchup for him at all. So just play him with confidence.
Yeah, and I think that the only and then we just honestly move on to the Bears side of the ball, and I think that you're not starting Jordan Howard. I mean, he's got an injured shoulder. And
yeah, well, he's removed off the injury report actually.
Oh, really? Yeah. Last I read, he was limited. So, but I'm just saying, either way, he does have a shoulder injury existing. And then, you got to understand that Tariq Cohen's there, and he's been kind of vulturing some work from him. And I think that he's really the only startable piece in Chicago this week.
Well, yeah. Jordan Howard, what are you doing right now if you have him? Are you looking to move him?
Fuck, I would be genuinely in full-blown panic mode if I was a Jordan Howard owner. Luckily, I was smart enough. I don't own him in any leagues. I wasn't really buying into the hype that he set for himself last year. I'm looking to sell him. I'm looking to package him in on a trade and try to get any kind of tangible asset, for a guy that's willing to take him.
I got this question on Twitter, and I wanted to save this question just for you to ask you right on the spot, complete
All right.
blindside. A Jordan Howard owner asked, I got offered just now Jordan Howard straight up for Sammy Watkins. Would you take that offer?
Absolutely, yes. I would totally take that offer.
Like you'd be happy to get your hands off of Jordan Howard.
Yeah.
You're feeling Sammy Watkins this year?
If I'm in the impossible situation of being a Jordan Howard owner, I want to clean my hands of him early right now. And if somebody is giving me Sammy Watkins, I'm taking that offer.
I mean, you got to think if you have Jordan Howard, there could be a good chance that you're 0-2 right now. Maybe you took like Jordan Howard and Michael Thomas, and they both been underperforming a little bit, and you could be 0-2 right now. And that might be a move that you might make. Yeah, totally get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do agree with you though. Tariq Cohen is probably the one back that I feel comfortable starting right now. You could probably put him in your flex. It still seems like they like to use him in the passing game. They were giving him a little bit more carries when Jordan Howard went down, but I don't think that's going to continue, though. I just don't see it. His frame is too small. You got to think they'd bring somebody else in there. I don't know who else is beyond him and Jordan Howard. Maybe Kareem Carey is still on the team. I'm not sure, but someone else is going to have to do that because that guy's too small. But I do like him in the passing game. You got Kendall Wright was involved in the passing game last week. But Marcus Wheaton is coming back off of his finger surgery. Who really cares about the rest? I do think that you could stream Zach Miller this week at the tight end position, though. Not my stream of the week, but you could stream him.
I can see it. You can do it.
Yeah. Let's go on to Atlanta on the road against Detroit. This is probably the game that I've been looking forward to because I think this one's going to have the most fireworks. Atlanta is favored on the road against Detroit by 3. The over-under set at 50.5. I believe this is the highest this week at 50.5. Atlanta, they give up the 4th most PPR points to running backs. I just want to start on the Detroit Lions side of the ball because that stat really makes me like Theo Riddick this week. Atlanta's always been a team that, even last year, that really struggled to defend the running back coming out of the backfield. I think that Theo Riddick's going to give them all kinds of issues. Also, Vic Beasley's, I believe he's out. One of their best pass rushers, so that's kind of a blow for them. I know they got a lot of young talent though, so I think they could replace that. But I really like Theo Riddick. I think he's one of my favorite plays out of the Lions this week.
Yeah, I think that I definitely trust him a hell of a lot more than Abdullah. I'm still in a wait and see mode on Abdullah. He looked good last night on Monday Night Football, but I think that I'm still kind of in a wait-and-see mode with him. But I think that I'm not really feeling too bad about starting Theo Riddick in my flex this week. I think he's going to be a good flex play.
Well, I think you could fire up both Abdullah and Theo Riddick. The only thing, though, with Abdullah is I still do think he does limit a little bit of upside. I don't think he's going to get a ton of touchdowns. He didn't get a single target last game. But then again, Detroit only threw the ball 4 times after halftime, too. Detroit's not going to be able to do that against Atlanta. So look for him to get a little bit more involved in the passing game in this one. So I do think you could start both running backs. If you got Golden Tate, I think he's a safe little play. But what's your take on Marvin Jones? He's kind of going in like the same area as Mike Wallace, and Mike Wallace has really been struggling, but Marvin Jones is showing some success.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely somebody that, it's so hard to start a guy like that, because at what point do you actually trust him enough to start him? Like, I think you'd have to have a really bad matchup with one of your receivers to, warrant using Marvin Jones, or it really depends on what league you're in. But I think that he's borderlining some RB3 value right now. Or I mean, not RB3, wide receiver 3 value right now.
Yeah, I think that this is a game like if you're in a pinch, you could put him in the flex. But outside of that, I think I'm looking more towards Golden Tate. How you feeling about Eric Ebron in this game, though? He's coming off a game where he scored a touchdown. You still really didn't see a whole lot of volume, though.
Yeah, it feels almost like he's kind of touchdown dependent at this point. But you gotta like what you saw. Against the Giants team last week, he was highly effective. He scored a touchdown. So I think that I'm feeling confident in Ebron right now, and I think that he could be a nice hold all year and be able to get you some tight end 1 numbers at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like they're teasing a little bit with him at this point. I think this is a decent enough matchup for him. I'm just not sure about his target usage,
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, that does be a little bit concerning, but.
Yeah. Let's go over to before we go over to the other side of the ball, I just want to say that Matthew Stafford's looked pretty good through the first 2 weeks. But and so is the Detroit Lions defense. The Detroit Lions defense looked better, but you got to think they played an Arizona offense that struggled so far this year. They struggled against Indianapolis. They played a struggling Giants offense, and this is a team. They're playing Atlanta. So they're going to open up their offense a lot more. You're going to see Matthew Stafford attempt a lot more passes this week. I really like him as he's like a borderline top 5 option this week. I think you could probably put him in that range.
Yeah, I think you could too. I have no qualms about starting Matthew Stafford this week. I think that you could fire him right up.
And let's go over to the other side of the ball. Like I was just saying, Detroit's defense has looked good through 2 weeks, but they really haven't played a good offense yet, in my opinion. This is their first real test, and you're gonna see. I think Atlanta's gonna have their way with their defense, in my opinion. I see what they did. I see what they did through the first 2 weeks. Their offense is still clicking. And Detroit hasn't really seen an offense like this yet, and they're going to get hit in the mouth.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that Detroit's kind of riding its high from the last couple of games. But Atlanta's a multifaceted offense, man. There's really no right way to guard them. They got too many weapons. I think Julio's in for a good week, and I also like Devontae Freeman this week. I think that Tevin Coleman could be in the mix for a touchdown too, depending. But that's always really hard to predict. So if I didn't draft Tevin Coleman in any league, so I'm not really too worried about that.
Yeah, I think this is a game where you could see Atlanta get out to an early lead, and yeah, this might be a very good day for a guy like Devontae Freeman. I still think you could plug both of them up in your lineup this week, though. Tevin Coleman, he's been more of the receiving back than Devontae Freeman. His snap share is a lot less though than say a guy like Devontae Freeman, but he's been more efficient with his touches. So I think they're both still solid plays. Like I said, you feel good about Julio. I feel good about Julio. We all feel good about Julio. What about a guy like Austin Hooper? Are you streaming Austin Hooper against the Lions?
No.
Yeah, I just don't think that Atlanta uses their tight end enough. Although that could be an area of the field where they could expose Detroit because they're typically not very good against tight ends. They just don't got the linebackers.
Definitely.
Let's go over Tampa Bay going on the road against Minnesota. At the time when I was trying to get the over and under for this game, it was not available because of the Sam Bradford injury. Now that we know Sam Bradford's going to be out, I'm guessing that Tampa Bay is probably favored by at least a touchdown. Obviously, Sam Bradford being out is a big blow to all the positional players for Minnesota. You got to bump Diggs down. You have to bump Thielen down. Maybe it doesn't hurt Dalvin Cook as much. People are still a little bit worried about this Tampa Bay defense, but you got to think they played Chicago last week. They were going to look good. They're always going to look good against Chicago. Now, this is a little bit better of a team, but without Sam Bradford, I just don't. I think that you could still stream their defense against Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter to me whatever way, but I think that this hurts really everybody on Minnesota's side of the ball. You know, you look at even a guy like Dalvin Cook, who I'm firing up this week. You know, I'm still gonna have to ride that. You know, I don't really have a better option. But it could get messy, man. You know, the Buccaneers have a top run defense, or one of the top run defenses in the NFL, and you know, now that they can't respect, you know, Sam Bradford, you know, rolling out and passing, I think they're going to just stack the box, and Dalvin Cook's going to see a lot of stacked boxes, so he's going to have, you know, a hard time ahead of him. But well, I still feel like even when we were first hearing about Diggs, you know, he had basically no quarterback. I think that I can't even remember who was throwing the ball. It was like Christian Ponder or some shit. But he was still able to do stuff. So I still think that you could fire Diggs up, you know, regardless of, you know, unless you have a better option. Thielen I'd be a little more hesitant on. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm not playing either one of those two. I think probably the only guy I'd probably really feel comfortable playing with in Minnesota would be either Dalvin Cook or a guy like Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. I wouldn't. Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah, I mean, Minnesota, Dalvin Cook actually didn't play bad last week with Case Keenum. He didn't have a lot of carries. He had 12 carries, but he had like 60-something yards. 44% of Dalvin Cook's carries have gone for 5 yards or more. I think that's second in the league, only to Derrick Henry.
Interesting.
So I mean, he's looked pretty good so far. Yeah. Other than that, though, I'm not starting Diggs. I'm not starting Thielen. I think if you have Kyle Rudolph, you could play Kyle Rudolph. That's pretty much it for the Minnesota side of the ball. If you go to the other side of the ball, you got Jameis Winston. I call him Jameson. Jameis Winston. Are you starting him against Minnesota, or are you looking for better options? This seems like a pretty decent Minnesota defense.
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to get, you know, Mike Evans probably is going to end up receiving the X treatment this week, and then, but you know, I feel like if you have Jameis on your team, you don't really have a better option at quarterback. So I'd say just fuck it, just fire him up. I'm not really too worried about it. It's not like, you know, Tyrod Taylor against the Denver defense. I mean, Jameis has the talent, and they're going to put up points this week. Like maybe not like he's not going to light the world on fire, but he's still going to put up. I think he's good for at least a touchdown or two. I say that I have no qualms with starting Jameis this week.
Yeah, I think what you're going to see in this game is that Minnesota's offense is going to be bad with Case Keenum at the helm, and with that offense struggling to move the ball, their defense is going to be on the field longer and longer, and they're going to get worn down. If Tampa Bay is smart, they have a heavy run game script against Minnesota. Even if it's starting to struggle at first, they should stick to it. I know Jacquizz Rodgers isn't a huge guy, but he's kind of got a build similar to like Maurice Jones-Drew or Ray Rice, like one of those type of running backs. They weren't very big either. I think if they go with the heavy run game script, it's going to wear down that defense, and then that's really what you're just going to see them get worn down, and that's when the points are going to pile up.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that.
Because that's the worst thing is when your offense keeps going 3 and out every drive, that your defense has come back on the field, and they're gassed, they're pissed, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you can fire up Jacquizz Rodgers. I think he'll be a nice little RB2 flex guy this week. Like I said, you could probably play Winston. Are you still playing Mike Evans? I think I'm still playing Mike Evans. I'm not. I know Xavier Rhodes is really good, but I don't think he's gonna solely be on him. Like they'll find ways to get him off him. So I'm not too worried about. I'm not too worried there.
Not either. If you're Mike Evans, though, you're not gonna sit him. Just play him.
Yeah. Are you playing Deshaun Jackson?
I'm a little more bullish on him. It's a tough secondary. I really don't see, I see Deshaun Jackson laying a big goose egg this week.
Damn. I think with the tight end situation, we really didn't get to see a whole lot with them. I don't think we've seen enough. I don't really think they had to dig into their playbook too much against Chicago. But I still think that they're both going to eat up into their time too much. But I would like to see how much they actually use Cameron Brate in the slot because he played in the slot a lot last year compared to most tight ends. They might still be able to use them both. It's just I think they're both going to cut into each other's time. So we could stop wasting our time talking about them.
Yeah, let's move on.
Houston on the road against New England. New England's 14-point favorites at home. Over and under, I forgot to write that down. I am so sorry, but it looks like Vegas is heavily favoring the New England Patriots. And I correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that Bill Belichick has ever lost to a rookie quarterback at home before.
Yeah, I mean, like off the top of my head, that's kind of an interesting stat, but no, I don't think that that's ever happened. Then again, I'm not an expert on that field, so I don't really know.
You're firing up Tom Brady as always. Who do you like in this backfield this week out of Gillislee and James White?
You know what? I like them both, honestly. I think that there's going to be plenty of touchdowns to go around this week. I think that there's going to be plenty of offense to be had, and I think that, Houston doesn't have, like, a super formidable defense against, passing down backs, and I think that James White's going to be very effective. However, I think that he's going to be more so in PPR leagues. It's going to be kind of fluky to predict him to get a touchdown. I think that Gillislee is at least good for a touchdown this week just because they use him in short yardage situations, but I think that, we're going to see a similar week from James White, like last week, where he got 8 receptions and whatever else, and he did all of his damage, pretty much just getting receptions out of the backfield.
I mean, we've seen much of the same with this backfield from week 1 to week 2. We're starting to see kind of how they want to use this backfield. Like they're bringing in Gillislee for the short yardage. I think he has a success rate of 70% on short yardage down so far, which is by far and away the number one in the league right now. I think the league average is 40-something, and he's at 70. And so he's been really good in the short yardage. And they also bring him in for the goal lines, and they bring him in to salt the clock. That's pretty much what he's there for. James White, they can do a lot more with him. They can use him in the pass game. They can move him in the slot. They can use him out of the backfield. So we all know they really like him. I think he's good for a few receptions. I think you could play both of these guys and kind of treat them both as like RB2s kind of.
Yeah, I definitely
maybe James White's more of an RB3 maybe, but.
Yeah, I could see that, but yeah, I mean, I think unless you got better options, you're starting both of them. You're definitely starting Gillislee. I think that depending on who you have, you're going to start White too. So.
Yeah, I mean, you could have better options out there, but if you have them, you can feel comfortable, I think, with this one.
Yeah.
As far as the receivers go, I think I kind of like Chris Hogan this week, actually. I think he's going to be the off-coverage guy, and he's going to be utilized maybe a little bit in the slot. I think that he could do something like that. Have you heard any word on Gronk at all?
On who? On Gronk? Yeah. He's going to suit up and play, no problems. He said right after the game last week he's good. It sounds like he still looks good. He hasn't been really held out of too much practice. He's had a couple limited ones, but it sounds like by all accounts that I'm hearing he's a go for this week. I like Chris Hogan too this week. I think that he could be that sneaky guy because he's not really drawing the coverage that Brandon Cooks is drawing. And this is my point to tell all you fuckers. When I drafted, I told you don't trust Brandon Cooks because of what he is. And he's kind of a home run hitter similar to a T-Jax. I think he's a little more athletic, but I just want to take that minute because I know for the first 2 weeks, he hasn't really done anything, so I just want to say I told you so.
While you're going on your little mini rant here,
yeah,
I just pulled something up that might concern you a little bit about ground owners. The Houston Texans they're only giving up 5 PPR points. I know it's only been 2 weeks. They're only giving up 5 PPR points per week. So they're number 4 against tight ends so far this year. It's still early, but it's not exactly an easy matchup for Gronk by any means.
Yeah, it might not be.
I think I do like Chris Hogan a little bit more than a guy like Brandon Cooks this week. I think we already covered the running backs. I think we can go over to the other side of the ball, Houston. And, this offense, this is not something that you can trust right now. They have a rookie at quarterback. It's kind of struggling. It's just to say the least. It seems like he has real issues with reading through his progressions. It seems like he gets like maybe his first or second read, then it's just Hopkins. Yeah, that's just me eating all the targets that DeAndre Hopkins is getting. Because he's 29 targets through 2 weeks. Yeah, he only has 14 catches to show up for. That's what you're going to expect in an offense that's just as bad as. And I don't know if it's as bad as Brock Osweiler last year. I think but it's not. It's really not any better really. Just not, it's kind of something that's still remain up in the air right now. Like a lot of the targets, you got to think the touchdowns will come sooner or later.
Yeah, at this point, you're not starting any tight ends from Houston. You're not doing it. Will Fuller, has already been ruled out for this week. He might come back next week. Doesn't matter. The only guy that you're even, remotely, the only 2 guys you're playing in this Houston offense is probably Lamar Miller and DeAndre Hopkins. And Lamar Miller has been kind of getting sort of into a timeshare right now. So, keep that in mind. But then also you got DeAndre Hopkins, who has proven that he can be productive if he's peppered with targets, like you just said. So I would fire him up. However, looking at Lamar Miller, I'd start getting a little concerned if I was one of his owners. Donta Foreman has been getting in there, getting some work, so keep that in mind.
Where are you at with Lamar Miller? Like, on a panic meter, on a scale of 1 to 10, like, where's your panic at right now if you're a Lamar Miller owner?
I'd say it's starting to heat up, man. I think that I'm at like a 6 right now. I'm like, ooh, I'm a little over the edge. I'm like, shit, I want to start looking at making a move for him, with any guy that's not really, feeling too bad about him. I'd start trying to think about making a move.
See, I guess I'll put mine a little bit lower than yours. I'll put mine at like a 4.7.
Oh wow!
I'm doing a fractions.
Nice.
But or decimals, excuse me. But I do think it is a little bit concerning that he's losing work, especially since he hasn't really looked all that efficient with the ball in his hand. And to me, it seems like I don't know why I didn't see this going into last year, but it just seems like he doesn't fit that system very well. It seems like they like that zone system, the zone blocking scheme, and they like the one cut and go. And I feel like Lamar Miller would be perfect for like a pass first team that plays in the shotgun a lot. So I just don't think he fits that team very well. He did lose 12 carries to Foreman last week. I think though that had a lot to do with the fact that it was game flow. They're playing with the lead. They're running the ball a lot. I think I wouldn't be very surprised if you've seen very little of Foreman against the Patriots, especially if the Patriots jumped in the lead early. You might not even see Foreman at all.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's one real big downside with Foreman. I think he's just real game flow dependent, especially because he doesn't bring a lot to the passing game. They've been bringing in like other guys other than Lamar Miller in the passing game. So I think Lamar Miller is still like a a volume-based RB2 at this point. He's still getting decent volume to get you like 70 yards, but he's got limited upside. He's not going to score you a lot of touchdowns because he's playing on a poor offense. And, this is kind of like what I was talking about in early in the season. Sometimes you got to be careful with those teams that aren't really that good, but they have a good running back. You got to be careful with them sometimes. And Lamar Miller is one of those kind of guys.
Definitely.
Yeah, like we said, I think I feel comfortable with Hopkins. I think it's a tougher matchup than people think, though. But I think I feel comfortable because he's going to have a lot of targets. I think that's it for that game, though. We can go over to Seattle, going on the road against Tennessee. Who do you like in this game? I think this is a pretty easy one for me. I think that Tennessee should have their way with them. I just don't see. I think it's gonna be a low-scoring game. I just don't see Seattle being able to contain that defensive line. So that's just what it boils down to at this point.
Yeah. Just, the Seahawks just look hashtag bad at football at this point, and
their defense looks good. That's about it.
Yeah, exactly, and it sucks because it's not really doing the whole team justice. Russell Wilson, I think that he's probably going to struggle again this week. Tennessee has a good front seven. I think that he's going to struggle again. Chris Carson looked good last week, so I would feel safe maybe firing him with my flex for right now. But I think that he's the guy going forward. Moving on to other people, Doug Baldwin, man, it's got to be frustrating, with where you had to draft him at and how he's performed lately. So I think that if you're a Doug Baldwin owner, I'm going to start him this week. I'm a Doug Baldwin owner. You can't like what you've seen so far.
You also got to think Seattle's a team, they have an early bye. If I'm 0-2 and I have I'm trying to flip a lot of my early bye players into players that have later buys, so I can try to buy a couple of victories earlier in the season. That way I try to avoid my buys for a longer period of time, if that makes any sense to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That way you're keeping as many starters in your lineup as possible. That way you're really not going into your bench too much. That kind of helps you out a little bit if you're 0-2, if you're able to swing a couple of trades to get rid of some of your early buy players and get them for later buy players that maybe they have a bye week week 10 or week 9 or something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's kind of where you're going. You're probably thinking maybe I should start thinking about moving Doug Baldwin.
Yeah.
Is that where you're going with it? Oh
yeah, what's up?
Is that where you were going with it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Yeah, I think the same thing, though, with Chris Carson. I think that he's a nice little sell-high candidate. He's not going to be able to keep doing what he's doing behind that line all year. He's going to start to have some duds coming up. I think that this is the perfect time to sell high on him.
Yeah, exactly. You could, right now the hype's around him, so you could really, package him in a trade and maybe get a premium piece if you package him with the right player.
Thomas Rawls, are you dropping Thomas Rawls? Are you trying to just cut ties with him?
I think I would. If you have room on your bench, I'd wait just one more week to just see if maybe something shakes out here. And I know I'm being very optimistic here, but if you have room on your bench, do it. If you don't, I totally understand. I'd cut bait. If you want to pick somebody up, I think you'd probably be my first option to drop a player. But if you feel comfortable with him on your bench, I would just maybe leave him there for another week, see how it shakes out, because it could change week to week, so you never know. But he's definitely droppable though.
Yeah, I'm gonna treat him like a Band-Aid and just rip it off real fast and throw it away. I think we already covered up a little bit about Doug Baldwin, and we're not really wanting to own any of the secondary receivers in this offense with the way their passing game's looking. Jimmy Graham, though, he might not even play. Now, what does he have? Doesn't he have 9 yards through 2 weeks so far or something crazy like that?
Yeah, he's been very disappointing up to this point in the season so far.
Yeah, if he's unable to go, I mean, are you cutting him? Are you putting him in the waiver wire? Are you just benching him and trying to stream somebody? Like, what are you doing with Jimmy Graham right now? I just feel like he's not really going to have much of a choice. He's going to have to stay in and block on a lot of plays this year because of that offensive line. And he's really not the blocking type.
Yeah, hard to say right now, but yeah, it certainly is trending that way. He hasn't performed well to date, so you might have to just, try to pick up a Charles Clay off of the waiver wire and maybe bench him. I would definitely bench him this week just because he's already dealing with an injury, so you might want to just, sit him this week and see what happens.
Yeah, but he may be your only good tight end. Like, if he's hurt this week, you got to make this tough decision right now. Like, are you cutting him right now for someone who might have a little bit more appeal to you this week, or are you trying to make maybe a move? I don't think anybody's going to want him. Like, this is a really tough ad that you have to do. I'm saying I wouldn't necessarily drop him, but if I'm in a tough little situation where I absolutely I have to cut somebody, he would be a consideration of mine.
Yeah, it would be a consideration. I think that you're being a little bit premature if you want to cut him right now, but at the same time, I understand if you want to do so. He hasn't done anything for your fantasy team to date, so I would hold him for now. I would try to move him if anybody wants him. Probably not, but then look for a guy like a Charles Clay. He's a popular option on the waiver wire, or a Ben Watson maybe.
I mean, I do like Ben Watson's matchup a little bit better than his. I think that's pretty much it for Seattle. We can go over to the other side of the ball. Marcus Mariota, this is not a great matchup. Like I said, you're probably going to want to try to sit him down. If you're sitting him down, we did talk about a couple of options. You could play Jay Cutler. Is there anyone else that's out there that you think you can fire in if you have a Marcus Mariota as your starter?
Yeah, I think you could probably.
I mean, I guess the real question is, would you have the balls to start him this week?
If you have better options, no, I wouldn't. If he's your only option and there's nothing better on the waiver wire, I think that I'd probably be more comfortable picking up, say if Trevor Siemian's still on waivers, just pick up Trevor Siemian and starting him, honestly. He doesn't have a super tough matchup against Buffalo. I just do it.
Like we said, Derrick Henry, 11 of his 20 carries this year have gone for 5 yards or more. And there was a report out there saying that even if DeMarco Murray was to play this week, that Derrick Henry would still get the majority of the work. Could this be a turning of the tide over here at the running back position for him?
Yeah, it sure sounds like it, man. Everything's going Henry's way right now. Only time will tell, but if you're a Henry owner, you got to be pretty excited at this point.
I think we've touched on this briefly a few times. Like, when that running back, when they get to that certain age and they hit that wall, it's not a gradual thing. Like, when they hit it hard. Like, you could almost see it happen over like a course of a couple of weeks, and then just boom, it's just bam, it's just they're done.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Adrian Peterson case. We've seen him, how on fire he was in 2015. In the last few weeks of the season, he started to bog down, and we just never seen Adrian Peterson ever again. We have the ghost of Adrian Peterson now.
Yeah, exactly. He hasn't given it up yet.
I'm not saying that DeMarco Murray is there quite yet, but it definitely looks like Derrick Henry has more spring to him. He looks like the better option at this point. They're going with him. He has a tough matchup. Are you playing Derrick Henry?
Yeah, I definitely put him in my flex for sure. I mean, maybe depending on who I have at running back, but I think that I'd feel comfortable starting him. I'd say he's got like RB3 flex value this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely some better options out there. Seattle does have a tough defense, but I think you could plug him in there. What are you doing if you're a DeMarco Murray owner, though? Are you freaking out at this point?
Yeah, man, I'm trying to trade him, if anybody will have him, if anybody's still confident that this hasn't shaken out yet, which I don't think there's a lot of owners like that. So I would just honestly, man, I mean, you got to hold him at this point. You spent too much draft capital to just drop him straight up. So I'd see if you can package him in a deal, sure. If you can't, just hold him, see how it shakes out.
Yeah, with Corey Davis, he's out with a hamstring injury. And I guess we didn't even really talk about DeMarco Murray's hamstring injury. I really honestly would be surprised if he does play. It was a reoccurrent injury from the off season. So, I mean, I'm kind of worried about that. Corey Davis is out with he re-injured his hamstring. So that's pretty serious in my opinion. So they're going to be with Rashard Matthews and Eric Decker as the receivers. Kind of hard to trust either one this week, though. I think I'd stay away from the passing options. I can't really endorse anyone on Tennessee. But I guess if you needed to play someone at the flex, you could put Derrick Henry, and that's about it.
Same. Move on.
All right. So now we got Cincinnati, Green Bay. Green Bay, they're successful. 75% success against running back. Teams are 75% successful at throwing to the running back against Green Bay, so that's definitely an area that maybe Cincinnati could exploit a little bit. And I think that with the new offensive coordinator that Cincinnati's getting, maybe they try to employ Joe Mixon a little bit more. What's your take on this about this new offensive coordinator? It was like the old quarterback coach, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, hopefully he can get Andy Dalton fixed. Hopefully we can get some better looks at AJ Green downfield, and maybe hopefully they can get unleash an explosive option like Joe Mixon, because we obviously know that they don't have any better running backs on that team. But yet Cincinnati wants to employ some kind of a fucking three-headed approach at running back, which is just asinine.
I think, though, this could be a case of greasing the squeaky wheel. I think they'll look to try to feed A.J. Green a lot in this one. I think that they just need – that's when their offense is at their best, is when he's the focal point. Although I know there's some data out there that suggests that A.J. Green is not as successful when Tyler Eifert's not on the field. It does not look like Tyler Eifert's going to be able to play this week. So that's a little bit of a blow for a passing offense that's already struggling. Do you think, though, you don't think that this team has enough to keep up with Green Bay?
I mean, no, I don't think anybody in America believes that.
Yeah, I mean, they're benching first-round draft picks for fumbling one ball, so that's where they're at right now.
Yeah.
We really need playmakers, but we're just going to bench them because they made a mistake.
Exactly.
If you go to the other side of the ball, you got Green Bay. It looks like Randall Cobb is going to be doubtful to play in this game. So I tried to dig in a little bit about how Jordy Nelson and Devontae Adams did without Cobb last year. Cobb was out for 3 games. Jordy Nelson, he played out of the slot 41% of the time in his absence, and he went 4 for 91 with a touchdown, 9 for 154 and 2 touchdowns, and then he went 6 for 60. Devontae Adams, he played 36% of the time in the slot while Cobb was out, and he went he had that 12 for 74 game, and then he went I think he went 44 yards with a touchdown, and he went 6 for 31 and 2 touchdowns. So this could spell for a lot more targets for both of these guys. I don't think Martellus Bennett's going to really be much of a factor in this one. I know he's had 17 targets through 2 games, but he kind of struggled with the drops last week, especially in the first half. He didn't really get involved too much until the second half.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't look for him to be too much of a factor this week.
Yeah, and it looks like, though, Jordy Nelson was practicing in full. I know he exited last game with a quad injury, so he looks like he's practicing full. He's good to go.
Yeah, everything I've heard, he's going to start, so I feel comfortable firing him up.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable. Like I said, I don't feel comfortable with Martellus Bennett this week. Cincinnati, they're the number 1 defense against tight ends so far this year. I know, like I said, it's only been 2 weeks, but they're only giving up 2 PPR points per week to tight ends. So It doesn't get much lower than that.
Yeah, right.
Let's yeah, are you ready to move on?
Yeah, let's move on.
All right, Kansas City and the Chargers. Chargers, they give up the 6th most points to wide receivers, and this is a team that has Kareem Hunt. They have Tyreek Hill. They're both big play options. I think obviously Kareem Hunt's a top option. You're firing him up. How do you feel about Tyreek Hill this week going against the Chargers defense?
I mean, the Chargers at face value have 2 Pro Bowl corners, so I would feel like,
I think one of them's out though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Barrett. I think Barrett is out.
Yeah. He tore his ACL.
Casey Hayward will be in, and I still think though that it's kind of fluky to predict a guy, with a skill set like Tyreek Hill because he's just a speedster. The only time he's really successful, he's got a very limited route tree, is if he can just, speed past, defenders. So, and they have a hard time keeping up with him. So it's kind of fluky to predict, but I'm really not high on the guy this year. I just, I think that this year he's kind of got, a high ceiling and a very low floor week in, week out.
I mean, the Los Angeles Chargers are like a top 10-ish team against tight ends, but I think Travis Kelce is a different type of tight end. So I'm not. If you're fired up Travis Kelce, I think you could put Tyreek in the flex this week. Not a guy I'm totally crazy about, but I think you could put him in the flex this week. That's about it for Kansas City, though.
Yeah. Let's go to Diego.
Let's go to the Chargers real fast. Melvin Gordon. We're seeing much the same thing we were seeing last year with Melvin Gordon. He's really just a touchdown dependent guy, I think, because he's getting some receptions, but he only has 67 yards through 2 weeks off of 27 carries. He's only averaging 2.8 yards a carry. 26% of his runs, only 26% of his runs have been successful. So I mean, he's really kind of struggling this year to really get any run room.
Yeah. I think that you're right too, because I've been noticing that too. He doesn't have a very good yard per carry average. He's not really getting too much done through the air either. So really, his fantasy value is just dictated by the fact that he crossed the goal line, 1 or 2 times, whatever, per game. So it's really hard to predict, what his value is going to be week in, week out. I think you still have to fire him up because, the volume he's getting. But, that he is what he is.
Yeah, I do think that Kansas City is like a tougher team against running backs. Like they can be stifling at times. So I mean that is a little bit of a concern of mine. So yeah, that's definitely something to look forward to if you're like playing the Kansas City defense this week.
Definitely.
Keenan Allen, he has 20 targets through 2 weeks. He looks obviously like he's the go-to guy in that offense. I think Tyrell Williams, he can have a decent little game playing as the off coverage guy. He's obviously going to play second fiddle to Keenan Allen, maybe even to Hunter Henry. I know they finally got Hunter Henry going, and they're going up against the Kansas City defense that just gave up 97 yards to Zach Ertz. Without losing Eric Berry kind of hurt their defense against tight ends. So I think that Hunter Henry is going to have a great game. I really like Hunter Henry this week. Fully endorse starting on this week. You'll have a good game out of him.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm on the Hunter Henry train. I have been ever since last year, so I say fire him up.
Yep. Are you at least happy, though, that Antonio Gates got the career touchdown record for tight ends?
Yes, now he needs to retire.
Yeah, I think now they can just get him out of the way and let it be the Hunter Henry show.
Right.
Changing of the guard. Let's go to Oakland going on the road against Washington. Who do you like? I think I kind of like Oakland in this one. Washington, it just seems like, yeah, they got Josh Norman in their secondary, but who else do they have? Like, with that Rayland dude is terrible. Josh Norman can't cover both Crabtree and Amari Cooper, so whoever he's not on is going to be successful. I don't think Josh Norman is really a shadow guy, so I think both guys will spend some time off of Josh Norman. Washington has allowed 300 yards passing in 7 of the last 10 games that they've played. That's just to put in perspective how bad they are at defending the pass.
Yeah, I think that these both are going to be successful. It's going to be a little bit concerning, though, for Amari Cooper owners that, literally just this last week, Crabtree had 3 touchdowns. So, and Cooper owners were hoping that he'd be getting more red zone looks. So that might be a little concerning going forward. However, I think that the fact that, Josh Norman is who he is, I don't think that either of these guys are going to be shadowed all game. I think they're both going to get their looks, and I would feel comfortable probably, starting either up.
I have Crabtree ranked over Amari Cooper this week. I don't think that's too surprising. It's kind of a tease for Amari Cooper owners. Week 1, he was getting all kinds of red zone looks, and they all went away week 2. Like he just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
I do like them both. I think I got Amari Cooper though more of like an RB2, and I got Crabtree as like a guy that could be like a potential top 5 this week.
Yeah, he could. He very well could.
How you feeling about Marshawn Lynch? Are you at all concerned about his workload at all?
Yeah, I'd actually be trying to sell him if I was an owner because, it's concerning to see, what he's looking at as far as second half because it seems like the Raiders are going to be playing from ahead a lot this season. And when they're playing from ahead, they're going to just kind of sit Marshawn Lynch. If they're not in high leverage, things, they're just going to sit him down and let Jalen Richard and DeAndre Washington kind of, take the majority of the snaps.
Yeah, I mean, I would be a little bit concerned about him at this point. I mean, because he just seems like they're going to want to limit him a little bit, and if he doesn't get in the end zone, you're going to be stuck with like 6 or 7 points, and you're going to be disappointed. I think if I was an owner of Marshawn Lynch, which I actually I just did the opposite of what I'm about to tell you to do right now. I traded for Marshawn Lynch like 2 weeks ago, but right now, if I was a Marshawn Lynch owner, if you're in my league, I'm trying to trade Marshawn Lynch. I think that maybe if you can get someone to buy his name, you can get a little bit more value for him and just try to get something while he's still worth something,
Exactly.
Let's go over to Washington. Do you think this is just what the doctor ordered for this offense, the Oakland defense?
I'm not really concerned about it. I think that they're and Oakland doesn't really have a very formidable defense, so I feel comfortable starting up all Redskins this week. Mainly the only.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's just what the doctor ordered is a bad defense.
Right, exactly. So I think this is going to cure the woes that ail them. The only thing withheld is the running back situation is you can't really trust Chris Thompson. I say playing if you don't really have anybody else, or maybe put him in your flex. But Samaje Perine, you're not starting him. And Jordan Reed, he it sounds like he may or may not go. He's like truly questionable for Sunday, so I'd be looking for alternative plans at tight end.
Well, no, I think Jordan Reed's all right. I think I thought I heard some reports about him saying he's going to be full go.
Oh, well, that's good then.
Yeah, I know he was practice. He was in practice this week, so that's good. That's very encouraging. Yeah, as far as you said, like you said, this isn't a very good defense. This is just exactly what Kirk Cousins and this offense needed. Hopefully, you were able to try to put in an offer for Kirk Cousins to try to buy low on him a little bit. If someone's drafting Kirk Cousins and they're feeling a little bit down on him, you could have got him a little bit lower. So he's going to be fine. He's playing Oakland this week. If he doesn't have a good game this week, though, I'd be a little bit concerned. But this should be exactly what the doctor ordered. You can fire up Cousins. Let's fire up Pryor. I love Crowder this week. I think Crowder could end up being a wide receiver 1 this week. Samaje Perine, though, I think you could pick him up just out of defense so nobody else has him. But I'm not playing that guy, dude. He just looks real slow. It just doesn't look like he had a lot of upside. The run game stalled when he was in. It was fine when Rob Kelly was in. Chris Thompson is like you said, a flex guy. How do you feel about Jamison Crowder?
Hard to say at this point. I really don't know where we're going, what direction we're going in with him. I'd be trying to buy low on him, though. If I'm in a league with a guy that's kind of getting antsy and needs some production out of his receivers, I think he might be a nice pickup. Okay.
Let's go over to the last game. It's the Dallas. They're on the road against Arizona. This is an Arizona offense team that's really struggled since. Even when DJ was in, they were still struggling. It looks like they moved Chris Johnson up the depth chart, so he's the starter. So they got that going for him. Carson Palmer hasn't looked sharp. Even Larry Fitzgerald is starting to struggle. Is there anything in this lineup that you're looking forward to this weekend?
I think if I'm a Larry Fitzgerald owner, I'm feeling a little more comfortable about him than anybody else. J.J. Nelson's a little bit injured, but I think he might be a good option too. However, back to Larry Fitzgerald, I think that he's getting peppered with targets. I think it's only a matter of time because I was noticing a lot of the passes that Carson Palmer were throwing him. It was more Carson Palmer's fault than anything. They were sailing over his head, or they were too short. They weren't in a spot where Larry could really catch him. So I still think that his prognosis is pretty high for this season. It's a little bit concerning. But J.J. Nelson, I think that his value is also good, like I was saying. I'm not really touching any of these running backs, though.
Yeah, I'm not really that concerned about Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald, he had a decent stat line week 1. And then he didn't do so hot week 2 now. And then everyone's like, oh, my God, Larry Fitzgerald's washed up. Oh, my God. He had one bad game. Chill out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not worried about him.
Yeah, he's still dominating the target share.
Yeah. I'm not buying any of the running backs. That's probably the only wide receiver I really feel real comfortable about. I guess if you're in a pinch, you can go JJ. The other side of the ball, I don't think that this Arizona team is as scary as people think. Arizona, they're giving up the 7th most points to quarterbacks this year. Dak Prescott, he's coming off of a somewhat disaster-looking game against Denver. He's looking to rebound. This is actually a tough road game, but they might actually have more Dallas fans in that stadium than Cardinal fans.
Yeah, I would see it happening, definitely. They look pretty close to Texas already.
Yeah. I'm starting up Dak. I'm starting up Zeke. I'm firing up even Dez. Jason Witten, he's the number 1 tight end. Do you feel comfortable starting him against Arizona? They're typically strong against tight ends, but we just seen what Jack Doyle did to them last week. Jack Doyle lit a fire under them. And don't you think that maybe Jason Witten could do something similar?
Yeah, he's been probably one of the most surprising tight ends to this point, so I don't see why he couldn't do it.
Yeah, right now, if I'm a Jason Witten owner, he's the number 1 tight end. I told you so, everyone. I told you so. But with that being said, if I am let's say I'm a David Johnson owner. Let's say maybe I'm 0-2. You can use Jason Witten right now to go fix a hole in your offense, or go fix a hole in your roster. If you need a running back 2, or if you need a wide receiver 2, go use Jason Witten to fix that hole. and they'll make your team better overall because you could still get streamers on the waiver wire. They'll still get you fantasy points at the tight end position. We do it every year. You just pick guys up right off the waiver wire that end up being top 10 options. And that's pretty much what Jason Witten is at this point. You just got him. You probably got him off the waiver wire, and you can go ahead and trade him to fix a hole in your roster.
Yeah, I definitely think you could do
that. Who you like in this game to win it?
I mean, you got to like Dallas. I think it's going to be a nice rebound game. They had an embarrassing defeat against Denver. I like them, and Arizona just doesn't seem like the same team without David Johnson.
Yeah, I'm looking for Dallas to rebound in this one. You got any last words of wisdom before we end our matchup show?
Hey man, you know what? It is absolutely time to blow up your roster. The time is now. Okay, if you want to win your league or you want to have a fighting chance of making the playoffs, you got to do it now.
You want to blow up your roster? Yeah, maybe you do because yours is a dumpster fire.
Hey man, it's not that bad. It's been over exaggerated. My team's not that bad, okay?
Yeah, okay. We'll see. I mean, you got a tough matchup, but the good news is for you is there's only two teams that are 2-0, and they're both playing each other this week. You're going against an 0-2 team, but you're 0-2. So you have a pretty good chance to move pretty far up the standings with a victory, you know.
Yeah, so I'm hoping if I don't win, I'm just going to be like, fuck it, fuck everybody, and I'm just going to play spoiler the rest of the season.
Yeah, well, that will pretty much do it for today's show, Fifth Down. I'd like to say thank you for tuning into this lengthy episode. If you enjoyed us, please leave us a rate and review on iTunes. That'd be greatly appreciated. You can also follow us on Twitter at the Fifth Down FF. We will be taking questions all day tomorrow. Oh, I'm sorry, not all day tomorrow. All day Sunday morning from 9 a.m. up until noon. So get your questions in there and get your lineups situated, and we'll get the storm together, Fifth Downers. We are on our journey to give you that extra down advantage that you need to win your leagues.
All righty.
All right, peace out, Fifth Downers.